Here inside TCO Studios for Winning Formula, the 2022 NFL Draft Edition. I'm Tatum Everett alongside voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen, and the analyst Pete Bercich from Vikings Radio Network. Guys, thanks for being in here today. We are just days away from the draft where the Vikings have 8 selections. They go on the clock with the 12th pick, the highest, the top 15 pick for the first time since 2015 for the Vikings. So a little bit of pressure and a lot of mock drafts say cornerback in this one. Is there anybody out there on the board that you think not only makes the sense as far as fit, but would be available with that 12th pick for the Vikings?
Well, I like Derek Stingley a lot from LSU, specifically given the Vikings DB's coached him last year. But outside of that, you know, this Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame, the safety really intrigues me with kind of his position flexibility and everything being new with the defense here. So I like him, but again, you know, I don't think he'll be available. Then we get to Kayvon Thibodeau, who is a rusher from Oregon, who, man, you know, it's, again, things are so unpredictable with the new regime here. I have no idea which way they're going to go, up or back or whatever. But this Thibodeau, size for a 3-4 defensive end, so that's kind of where I'm looking right now.
And I would agree. I think Stingley's the way to go. I mean, the only reason he's not even higher than Sauce Gardner is the Liz Frank injury and his inability to stay on the field. But you watch that kid on film, and he is remarkable. The best, you know, we talked about Justin Jefferson and his ball skills. Well, this kid's the same way. I mean, he doesn't just bat these things down. He picks them off. He can run. He can do all those things. He can hit, tackle. Perfect fit, perfect need. I mean, if it falls that way, that's great. Now, Kayvon Thibodeau, I think will probably be off the board by the time the Vikings pick, you know. But I do agree with Paul on Kyle Hamilton. I think he's a guy. You got a few spots. We've got cornerback, we've got safety, and really defensive tackle. Anyone we pick at 12 are going to be day one starters at those 3 positions.
And if you haven't seen the analyst's work with Kyle Hamilton at Vikings.com,
Yes.
right here, man, that
Yes.
was really good. You'll understand why we like him.
Well, you have to go check out Pete's film room sessions on all these guys because cornerback has been a popular topic, obviously, in these several mock drafts as being the topic. And since 2013, the Vikings, 4 of their 12 first-round picks have been cornerbacks. So it's a new front office, though. We'll see what they do. They may surprise us, which brings me to my next question. If they don't go corner, where do you see the Vikings going?
What do you think? Pass
In the first
rusher?
round.
Maybe some offensive line?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the guy that I've watched and really love is Jermaine Johnson, the young man out of Florida State. And I started liking him before I knew he was an Eden Prairie kid, right? So it's like you like him even more. Physical. You watch his work at the Senior Bowl. You know, you listen to Donatel talk about the outside linebackers and having to set the edge. They have to be able to dominate tight ends in the running game, and that helps out when you're playing a gap and a half, or 2 gapping guys underneath. So I think he fits. He starts on third down situations. He takes Za'Darius, move him inside where he's a better pass rusher. Most of his sacks come from the inside. And now you have 3 guys that can get after the quarterback on 3rd and 4th down.
Now I'm all over the place with where I think the Vikings could go in the first round.
I mean, what he just said plays into your first question, where if there's a way to get to this Thibodeau kid with 3-4 packages, 3-3-5, Za'Darius doing damage inside, of course you have Daniil. If you can get this guy, that takes pressure off the secondary, where some of the best 3-4s in the last 20 years have had some of the most obscure cornerbacks that you've ever heard of, like Pittsburgh back in like 04, Willie Williams, Deshae Townsend. So there's more than one way to skin a cat with these spots. Wide receiver, I'd keep my eye on that too.
You mentioned Za'Darius Smith. He was selected in the 4th round of the draft, and there is a lot of value when you hit those 3rd round and back guys like Daniil Hunter, Harrison Phillips. So what is a position that the Vikings could target in these later rounds that would be of value? Because this is a deep draft class. Is there names and a name in particular?
I'm thinking inside linebacker, or maybe I'm overthinking this 3-4 piece, you know, because the Vikings have not run a 3-4 base in 40 years since the early 80s. Really even just a 3-4 consistently. So Kendricks and Hicks and whomever else from a size standpoint, I just wonder if they're big enough to sustain a 3-4 repeatedly throughout the year. So Leo Chanel from Wisconsin, that's definitely somebody I keep my eye on. And Troy Anderson from Montana State. Pete knows better than anybody, man. But Troy Anderson, 6'3", 243, used to play quarterback. They transitioned him to linebacker, and it really clicked. But when you start getting to linebackers and players like that, deeper in the draft, you got to start thinking special teams too.
Yeah, and I think with the linebacker position is kind of like the running back position where it's been devalued. If I was being drafted today as a linebacker, I wouldn't even have been picked. I mean, it's two guys on the field. So you take a look, and I'm looking at these guys are predicting to go in the second, third, fourth rounds, and I'm thinking these guys would all be starters back in the day. I mean, right. You mentioned Leo Chanel. He's a huge guy that can run like a deer, but you start getting into that fourth round, there's a guy named Channing Tindall from University of Georgia. Didn't see a lot of the field because of the guys that were in front of him, Nakobe Dean being one of them. But a guy like him, you can get him fourth round. He could eventually be a starter in the NFL. You mentioned Troy Anderson. There's another guy, Brian Asamoah, a guy from Oklahoma. You watch him on film. He's all over the place. He's just 6 foot, about 220. These linebackers are getting to be big safeties nowadays. But again, I go back to Donatel. Be physical. Be physical. You look at Chad Muma, a kid out of Wyoming, another big physical type player. You can, I think, get a guy in the third, fourth, fifth round who will eventually fight for a starting position here.
And bottom line here is if you get sniped on any of these players, just take somebody from LSU. I mean, I think Tatum probably has told Kwesi that 15 times. So just settle on LSU and you'll be okay.
No inside information has been shared. No inside information just yet.
A lot of new people around here, man. That's hard to get.
Well, it's time now to do our bold predictions for this first round of the NFL draft. Where do you think the Vikings will go with their 12th pick?
What you got?
I think either any one of the three, whether it's Stingley, Jermaine Johnson, or Hamilton, if any of those three are on the board, you take them. And you just got an instant starter. That's exactly what you want at 12. Whether or not all three of those guys will be gone, every quarterback, if Carolina goes quarterback, I mean, whatever quarterback gets picked up or before is good, right? Anytime you see an offensive player go off the board, whether it's an offensive tackle, whatever, that's good for the Vikings because that means one of these three guys are more likely going to fall to us.
And of course, that's if they stay with the 12th pick, Paul.
Correct. And Kwesi, again, everything is new. There are no past performances with the general manager, the head coach, even Ryan Grigson, who's been at Indianapolis, but no past performances here. I love that. It's fascinating. It's an advantage for the Vikings. So Kwesi trading up from 12, identifying somebody he loves. Say it's Stingley. Now, 9 with Seattle, that's the key spot because Seattle's going to go defense, I believe. And I think they're all over Stingley. So you may have to overpay a little bit, but again, this is a new regime and moving from 12 up to identify exactly what you want. That would be the bold prediction.
And you have both the Jets and the Giants with 2 picks each early on in the first round. So
and the Jets there's
some opportunities there.
And Washington's right in front of you, and they have a rock star defense, so they're going offense. So if you love Stingley and you got his college coach here, who was here a couple of years ago, or whomever, our guy moving up a little bit, let's see what happens.
Only time will tell as we count the days down to the 2022 NFL Draft. Stick with Vikings.com, the Vikings app, wherever you get your Vikings content for all the latest as we head into this exciting time. Thank you so much, Paul Allen, Pete Bercich. I'm Tatum Everett. We will see you next week, especially when we break down the 2022 NFL Draft.